What are some very creepy facts? Female mummies in ancient Egypt were always more decomposed than their male counterparts. They discovered that this was because male bodies were embalmed a lot sooner than female bodies. Female bodies were kept at the family home until they started to decompose in order to avoid necrophilia at the embalmers. After getting stung by a cone snail, you don't feel the sting for a little bit. There is no anti-venom and it can be lethal. Treatment is basically keeping the victim alive until the venom wears off. One reason that crows and ravens are associated with death is because they would often follow armies as they marched to battle. Being both carrion birds and extremely intelligent, they realized that a large group of armed men marching on one direction meant that there would be a tasty meal of corpses to eat soon afterwards. Blobfish in its natural habitat looks like a normal fish, but it lives so deep underwater that it doesn't use a normal gas bladder to keep itself balanced. Instead, it has a spongy skin that is slightly less dense than water, which becomes damaged and bloated when fishermen bring it up too quickly. It's not really the ugliest fish. It has just experienced something worse than one of us being thrown into outer space. Between sea level and space, there's 1 atmospheric pressure of difference. Between sea level and 2,000 feet underwater, their upper limit, there's 60 atmospheres of difference. When you happen to be murdered, there is only an about 40% chance that your murderer will be found and punished. Edit. A lot of people are asking which country I'm referring to. This is a worldwide approximation. There are obviously countries with higher percentages of solved murder cases, but also some with even lower. For example, in the US there is a 40% chance to get away with murder, in Mexico 90% to get away with it. Organized crime, the overall amount of crimes in that area, and war plays a huge role in this. Locusts aren't a type of animal, they're a condition some grasshoppers experience. Many species of grasshoppers become locusts when they're too crowded, literally their legs rubbing together triggers the change. Once grasshoppers start to swarm, they will join up with others, physically grow larger, change color, and eat basically anything they find. Most of a swarm will be born as part of the swarm. Increased mating is part of swarm behavior. This is why it often seems like locust swarms come out of nowhere. Edit. Whoa, this blew up. Thank you for the awards, kind strangers. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert and my Wikipedia level understanding was super lacking for a post with this many eyes on it. Here are some corrections that have been brought to my attention in the comments. A very small percent of grasshopper species swarm, and not all those that do undergo physical changes. Your garden variety grasshopper is probably harmless. Especially if you're in NA where there's only one species that swarms and it's super rare. Grasshoppers who do swarm are often called locusts even when not swarming. It's less of a grasshoppers catch locusts situation and more of a there are a subset of grasshoppers called locusts who swarm. Thank you to everyone who pointed out mistakes in my original. If you begin to display symptoms of rabies, you will go crazy and die. There's no cure. Your brain will slowly melt until you're dead. Serial killer Richard Chase took any unlocked door as an invitation to come inside. In the US, if someone is kidnapped and not found within about a day, then there is a 97% chance the kidnapped person is dead. Crocodiles can gallop like a horse. I don't like knowing this, so I am cursing you people with this knowledge as well. Fortunately, alligators cannot. Men who are hanged get a death erection, known as rigor erectus. Pretty awkward for the family, I assume. There's a parasite that enters a fish's mouth, eats the tongue and replaces itself as the fish's new tongue. A black mamba is the fastest snake, which can slither at a speed of 12.5 miles an hour, 20 km/h. They have neurotoxins which are fast-acting. The venom shuts down the nervous system and paralyzes the victim. Its venom is able to kill 10 people and it repeatedly bites. To add on to this, there is an almost 100% kill rate and can kill in 20 minutes. The venom of a black mamba can kill a human in 4 hours if, say, bitten on the ankle or the thumb. However, a bite to the face or torso can bring death from paralysis within 20 minutes. Now, you should listen to this, cause this concerns you. The amount of venom that can be delivered from a single bite can be gargantuan. You know, I've always liked that word. Gargantuan, so rarely have an opportunity to use it in a sentence. If not treated quickly with antivenom, 10 to 15 milligrams can be fatal to human beings. However, the black mamba can deliver as much as 100 to 400 milligrams of venom from a single bite. L. Driver. Tarantulas can swim. If you live to age 70, you will have shed around 105 pounds of skin. Edit, because most seem confused. I mean over time, not all at once. That would be terrible. When creating the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland, they couldn't create skeletons that looked realistic enough, so they used real human skeletons. They've since removed all of them except one. Ducks become cannibals due to boredom, of all f***ing reasons. They can only be stopped by cutting off their mouths. It wasn't until 1987 that the American Academy of Pediatrics declared it unethical to operate on newborns without anesthesia. Until surprisingly recently, the medical community felt it would be dangerous to give infants anesthesia or believed that they didn't feel pain. It was once discovered that a fir tree was growing inside a human body. Artyom Sidorkin went to the doctors suspecting something wrong with his lungs. The doctors thought they were dealing with a tumor, but turns out he had inhaled a fir tree seed which had sprouted and had begun growing in his lungs. Edit. Wow, so Grey's Anatomy is a popular show. I'm sure this was the inspiration for that episode. Cockroaches have been recorded eating human flesh, both living and dead, as well as fingernails, eyelashes, feet, and hands. The American cockroach and German cockroach are more likely to bite humans than other species. Pretty sure Australian cockroaches do something equally creepy, but as an Australian who plans to sleep at some point in the future, I'm not going to Google it. There was a speech made for Apollo 11 if they were to die on the moon. Side fact, if it were to happen, people would look up at the moon knowing that crew died there, and their bodies would rest there till the end of time. Not forgetting that the ocean is somewhat like this, many people died there too, at the very depths of the sea. People don't take their anti-malarial drugs when they travel because they hear bad stories about the side effects and they see native people in the areas living okay without taking pills every day. The truth is, populations native to malaria endemic areas have all passed through pretty intense natural selection for survival and have a host of genes that prevent them from dying or suffering the other worst effects. Also, most of the resistance is built up over time. This is why it's most common for children to die rather than adults. Whatever people have heard about the side effects of the anti-malarials, getting it is so much worse. I, fortunately, have never had it, but I study it as part of my work and people have told me about having it and they all say the same thing: it is so awful you can't believe you're even still alive. It comes in cycles, usually 48 hours, and each cycle is agonizing and brings you the brink of death. Sometimes it takes you, sometimes it spares you for another few hours until it starts again. And there are forms that, even if you clear the infection with drugs, it still remains dormant in your system and can come back at any time. Edit. I don't want to freak people out too much. There are drug combinations that can kill every stage of the parasite as long as there is no drug resistance. It's quite common after you die to burp a lot as you have more gas build up. Dead bodies can also sit up on their own sometimes. Most people smell different when they're awake. Mount Everest is covered in frozen corpses because removing them is very unsafe and time-consuming. They are easily viewed from the climbing routes and some are used as trail markers. There are upwards of 300 active serial killers in the world. Hearing is the last thing to go after you die. You just might hear the paramedics and firefighters call off CPR. A single tiger has killed over 436 people in India. How many has a married tiger killed? Dolphins are fucking monsters, and although this one isn't as creepy as other comments, but gangs of male dolphins can trap a female, slap her around with their tails, and forcibly f her for weeks. Dolphins are f***ed up, man. There's a spider that gives you a 3H long boner, before you die from its bite. Edit, the boner it gives you is very painful. They used real corpses in the 1982 film Poltergeist, for the ending pool scene. The actress did not know until after the scene was filmed. From Atlas Obscura by Thuras and Morton. Necropants, reader's discretion advised. In Iceland, a long-ass time ago, 17th C, friends followed complex rules to obtain a dead man's skin to turn them into pants. You had to get permission from the dude to use his skin after he kicked the bucket. You would then wait until burial formalities concluded. You would rob the shit out of your buddy's grave. You would cut the waist and peel the bottom half of the body off in one perfect flay. You would then steal a coin from a poor widow, preferably your bud's. Place the coin in the scrotum of the necropants to attract cosmic shit, specifically more wealth in life, and leave the groin full of coins at all times. Pass that shit down to your kid. Fun fact, the Museum of Icelandic Sorcery and Witchcraft has a pair on display for all of us sickos to gawk at. Edit, * steal a coin. Additional, you are right, it's folklore. What is creepy is that they dedicated a museum to all of this fucking metal folklore and bothered to create a replica of a very disturbing idea. I just thought the storytelling would be fun, and lo and behold, I had some amazing comments come from it. For those who don't want to read the fucked up details. In Stalin's Russia, 6,700 people were sent to live in a work camp on an island in a remote part of Russia. They had no supplies, shelter, or tools, and if they tried to leave the island they were shot and killed by Russian soldiers. It took less than 2 months before the people on the island, in their desperation, gave in to a cannibalistic holocaust. Over 4,000 people were killed or went missing in that time. In the end, only 300 people made it off the island in one piece. It wasn't until the late 80s that a world tribunal even found out the gruesome details of what went on there. Edit, someone pointed out the source I linked isn't the best, so here's one with better citations and links to more content on the subject. Thanks for listening, Daily Reddit Dose. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to get latest Reddit stories.